Chapter 14. Escape by Moonlight. The 11th night day of Edrin, 819. 32 days until Sown. Having thrown my shoes at the guards days ago, I have nothing but my robes and manacles left. My plan to rush the first guard that enters my cell is a source of self-derision now. No one has entered my cell. No one has asked me any questions. Twice a day, guards wordlessly place bread and a water skin inside my cell. I crave eye contact or some other small acknowledgement of my existence. If not for one tiny opening in the wall below the thatch roof, I would be totally cut off from nature. I let the morning light hit my eyes. I barely have time to pray before Belanos is lost from view until the next day. The bridge to my cell slams together. It's not time for the second meal of the day. Have they finally come to interrogate me? My heart starts racing as the door creaks open, flooding the building with beautiful, blinding light. A man is being dragged into my dismal home, but I can't make out more. I stand at the front of the cell, allowing the light to strike my whole body. For the moment, I feel alive again. "Don't put me in with a filthy druid," the half-conscious man yells. He stirs a bit more and tries to break free of his captors. "They're cannibals! He'll kill me when I sleep! He'll eat me!" "Would you prefer to go to the King's Mark?" Babyface asks. His oily voice sends a shiver down my back. "Please," the man says desperately. "Please, not with the druid." Babyface smiles, his malicious grin, as he points the men in my direction. "Put him in with the druid." "No, you can't do that to me!" The man makes himself hoarse as he is forced toward my cell. I step back without being told. I know that he'll be bodily thrown in once the door is opened. He lands face first on the ground as the door slams shut. The man freezes as the guards retreat. Once the door closes, he screams in his ragged voice until the guards are out of earshot. He turns to face me. "You are Grami, are you not?" The thrill of having someone speak to me turns into suspicion. "How do you know my name?" The man is in a dirty servant smock. His beard is unkempt, and he reeks of ale. "This is the second time we've met at a jail of the Obsidian Lord." "Offswith." He smiles at me. "At your service. I must say, I don't like your old clothes." "Why are you here?" "Much like you, I wager. I thought this was in Celia's hands. I came to sell some of the gemstones I acquired from Solent Keep." "Why the servant's robes, and why the ale? It's not even midday." "The ale is worn, not consumed, and it's to make the buyer overconfident. As for the robes, they were supposed to protect me if I got caught. Being a servant, I could always pin the crime on a wealthy merchant. I wasn't prepared for a mental duel, so that fat child of a soldier struck at me first." "I'm afraid your thieving days are over now. Just like my quest to become a druid is doomed to failure." "Why haven't you turned into a bird and flown away?" I raise my hands and show him my shackles. Iron interferes with a druid's powers. "Is that all? Why haven't you gotten out of the manacles and left before now?" "Because I can't use my powers." His mind must still be fuzzy. His white teeth gleam in the darkness. "I think we can find a common cause once more." Belanos and his fiery chariot signal morning has arrived. I slip in through a crack in the prison wall. I change back into human form and Offswith slams the manacles back on me. "Cutting it close, aren't we?" Offswith asks. I cut off his banter. "The Obsidian Lord is coming here tomorrow." Offswith's smile fades. He tugs on his moustache. "By the gods, I'm dead." He stares at me with horror. "I think there is a way out for us both." You believe there is a way, do you? You have a way out for both of us. I swore to tell you the truth. I wish you wouldn't. The bridge slams down. Our morning meal is arriving. We separate to opposite corners. I fix Offswith with a hateful stare. The door opens and the sunlight blinds us. They're both still breathing, so neither of us wins today, one of the guards says. They'll wish they had taken care of each other before long. They both chuckle. The short guard throws a loaf of bread in the middle of the cell. They have been trying to get us to fight over food since Offswith's arrival. We eye each other warily, but neither of us makes a move for the bread. Irritated, the guard unties the water skin and drops it just inside the bars. Offswith throws a handful of dirt at me and dives for the water. I make for the bread and we continue to glare at each other. I don't believe either of them knows how to fight, the fat guard says. In disgust, they turn and leave. Once the door closes, we come together and share our meal. It's not fair that they never strike you with the bottom of their spears, I say. The water is always left closer to me, but I take a beating when I go for it. You're right, and it's not likely to ever happen. Offswith taps the side of his head. He takes a huge bite out of his half of the bread. And you have to go for it, otherwise they'll wonder how you can survive without water. So you're fine with them striking me? Offswith shrugs. I hold my arms up, and Offswith deftly picks the locks. I drop to the floor and sketch out the camp in the dirt. They still have 5 guards around the dry moat at all times. 2 to man the bridge to the west, and 3 archers on the sides and back of the building. That's not going to change tonight. No, and you are going to have to use your mind magic to get off this prison island. They're not all in a direct line of sight, and they're spread out too much. I can't control all 5 of them at once. I wave away his objections for now. The men have erected a low wooden wall to keep the townspeople from entering the camp. The guards are going to be stationed behind the wall, in case the crowd gets too excited. The townspeople are allowed up at dusk to perform their blasphemous 2-day rites to Brigantia. The equinox belongs to no god, so any such invocation is nonsensical. It is only we Druids who mark this day. I stop and take a breath to keep myself from ranting. Focus on what you need to. At nightfall, the day before the autumnal equinox begins, and everyone will be focused on the meaningless rituals. Most of the guards will have their backs to us, so we'll use that time to escape. That must eat you up, that the common folk are communing directly with the gods. If it allows us to live, then I will find one redeeming factor in this city's impiety. So, how are we getting out of here? Offswith asks. I kneel down next to where our tiny one ray of sunlight hits the floor, and I draw my plan in the dirt. At sunset, everyone will be gathered around the temple to celebrate the equinox festival. I draw a box to mark the temple. I'll be in bat form, so you'll have to slip out between the wall and thatch on the north wall and shimmy into the dry moat without being seen. The noise from the crowd will mask any noise you make, hopefully. Is that all? No. I flash an apologetic grin. You'll have to take care not to be seen by the archers on either side. At the same time you're mentally controlling the rear archer, you're going to climb up the ditch directly underneath his feet. Oh, I really don't like this part. I'll never see the kill shot that's coming for me. I shrug. If we had more time, we could come up with a better plan. Everyone should be at the ceremony, so I'll turn back to human and release the animals from their pens as an added distraction. A distraction doesn't do us any good if we can't leave the hill fort. I'm getting to that. I will meet you at the treasury, between the war leader's house and the warrior's camp. What then? You fly away and leave me to fend off the whole fort? No, I say, with exaggerated patience. We'll use the escape tunnel next to the warriors' camp. What escape tunnel? I spotted it early last night, but I couldn't check it out until right before daybreak. There's a drop of 2 to 3 times my height, then a tunnel that goes underneath both ramparts and exits on the western side of this place. The war leader has a bolt hole. Offswith pumps his fists in the air. So we will make it out of here alive. I give him his moment of celebration before I finish my plan. There are a couple of problems we have to overcome first. Anya is well up in the sky as Belanos takes his leave. Her bright glow will make our escape that much harder. Her next rise will be special. Anya at her full brilliance on the equinox. One would be lucky to see it happen 3 times in their life. I flutter out of the small opening between the stone wall and thatch roof and scout the area. Bats have terrible sight, but they have a magic all their own for navigating at night. A tall bonfire sends tendrils of flame above the temple edifice. The chanting of priests and the cheers from the crowd feed off one another. I fly right in front of the rear guard's face. He doesn't even flinch. So far, the plan is going smoothly. Offswith drops down from the newly enlarged opening and slides into the ditch. He freezes, waiting for the kill shot. His brown robe stands in stark contrast to the chalky dirt walls. When it's clear no arrows are loosed, he begins his slow climb up the trench. Covered in sweat, he reaches the top at the feet of the frozen guard. Offswith rises to his feet, and with an air of confidence signals me to proceed to the next job. The animal pen is not deserted as it had been the previous 2 nights. A soldier and a local woman have discovered the privacy the space offers and are busy shedding their clothes. His is a full uniform, so he must be on duty. I land on the gatepost. If I open the gate, the guard will be forced to call the alarm. We may not even make it to the tunnel before the base is alerted. I let out a small chirp of annoyance and hope this will be the only part of our plan that goes awry. The torchlight in the treasury tells me that Offswith has made it safely to cover. I regain my human form and enter the room. Offswith greets me with a jeweled dagger ready to throw at my head. He exhales and refocuses on the valuables in front of him. I hadn't considered the possibility of him killing me and escaping alone. Silently, his deft fingers spread out the baubles, and the ones that meet his fancy go into his bag. Are you going to stand there, or are you going to collect your booty? He holds up a thick golden torque with a smoky yellow gemstone at each end. Right, I need to get my possessions. This was King Mark's. He shows me the torque from Solent Keep's treasury. I was caught trying to sell it in the marketplace below. I should have been suspicious when old Dorrit led me to a buyer as soon as she saw it. In the sack it goes, along with a lot of other coins and trifles. Will you be able to run with all that? If not, I'll start dropping some as we go. I have never seen a soldier who wouldn't pause a pursuit to pick up treasure. I scan the room and spot my pack. Opening it, I see that the orchids are badly damaged. I spread them out on the table as neatly as I can. I utter a simple restoration spell. The orchids glimmer for an instant before the brilliance ripples from the bottom to the top, reconnecting the plant tissue. Once whole again, the flowers pulse with a dim white light. A second ripple begins at the bottom, and I gasp in horror as the flowers all turn to stone. A drop of water is released from the center of each stone flower. More stone flowers? Stop staring and grab what you need. Deflated, I realize that I have failed my quest. I scoop up the stone flowers and put them in my pouch. Maybe Boswin will be lenient for once, and maybe the tides will halt their rhythms too. I scan the camp and carefully take my first step out of the building. Offswith grabs my arm. Can't do that. If anyone sees you, they'll know you're guilty of something. Walk purposefully to the bolt hole. I feel exposed, but I do as he says. Not daring to speak, I point to our exit. Offswith scoffs as he flips over the wooden cover, and his first whiff reveals the unpleasantness of my plan. This is a latrine. No, well, yes, it is at times. The tunnel goes all the way to the base of the hill fort, but apparently the warriors do use it as an extra latrine, too. His moonlit face shows his disgust for my plan. After a moment, he shrugs. At least my smock is brown. Your pretty white robe is about to be badly soiled. He smirks at me before splashing in the dirty puddle below. I drop a reed light down to him. He uses his sparking stones and lights the reed easily. I scan the camp thoroughly. No one has sounded the alarm. I give silent thanks to Brigantia and Anya before I transform into a bat and fly into the tunnel. My robes will not be getting badly soiled. The reed light is bouncing up and down ahead of me. Offswith didn't bother to wait for me. I continue my flight until I'm right on his shoulder. Then I retake my human form. You can be very stealthy, he says without breaking his stride. I didn't hear you approach. I fall in beside him. The tunnel opens up to a grassy slope ending at the burbling River Avon. There is nary a tree to provide cover, and Anya's light feels so very harsh to my eyes. Your white robe will give us away in this moonlight. Make for those trees. I point north of the river. I'll meet you there. I wait for him to cross the fields and make it to safety before I become a bat once more and join him. Neat trick, he says grudgingly. What now? We go into the River Avon. If they do find our trail, they'll lose it again, where we enter the river. And we can clean this filth off of us? The shit has splattered all over his legs and smock. He looks me up and down. Why don't you have any shit on you? I took the bat form to enter the tunnel and avoided your fate. I don't even try to keep the smugness out of my voice. Then how did you put the lid back to cover our escape? I hadn't thought of that, I shrug. They will most likely assume that the last person to use it as a latrine didn't replace the lid. And if they happen to see my footprints below, do you think they'll ignore that too? You've pointed them in the very direction that we're fleeing. Keep your voice down, I urge. I hadn't thought of that, but there is nothing to be done about it now. It's all the more reason to keep moving. Offswith clenches his jaw in anger and closes his eyes. One last thing before we go, I add. What? Can I see that dagger you ready to throw at me when I entered the treasury? He opens his sack and retrieves the dagger. I thought you Druids forswore the use of metal. We have. He hands it and the sheath to me. The embroidery on the leather is impressive. I see the oyster rock embedded in the base of the handle. I draw the blade and note the keen edge. A princely gift. Indeed. Thank you, Anya, and thank you, Brigantia. Please accept our offering. I fling the dagger as far downriver as I can. Offswith curses me in low tones. He takes a step toward me, his fists balled. What the hell was that? We must give thanks to the goddesses who aided us in our escape. I have nothing to give, so I asked for something that I knew was not yours to begin with. What about those stone flowers you took? I didn't realize he'd noticed. I must keep them, for a different purpose, for which I may not speak. We follow the river north. After only a league or so, Offswith declares us safe. Give me your water skin. I will fill them both up, he says. Thanks. I couldn't find my stave in the treasure room. I'll look for one now. I return with a stout oak branch, but Offswith is missing. I search and find my pack by the shore. He didn't even leave me a water skin. I guess our partnership is over once again. I must go north and warn the Plains Druids that Sarum has fallen. This news is more important than my quest. I hang my head, knowing that I continue to get further and further away from completing my quest, but it cannot be helped. I grab my gear and realize that my pack is very light. The 5 stone flowers have vanished, like my future with the Druids.